What happened when the Vikings met indigenous Americans? Who discovered America? The simple answer is that the continent was discovered by the remote ancestors of today's Native Americans. Americans of European descent have traditionally phrased the question in terms of identifying the first Europeans to have crossed the Atlantic and visited what is now known as the United States. But who those Europeans really were is not such a simple question. Hello, friends. Well, if you often fantasize about the past and really want to know about the history of ancient civilizations, then you're at the right place. Welcome to Unthinkable Past, a channel better known for dishing up the outlandish ancient traditions of all times. Today, we'll be looking at Viking traces in North America, their confrontations with Native Americans, and why they vanished virtually as soon as they arrived. So better buckle up, and let's binge history together. The Norse discovery of America has actually become one of the most studied aspects of the Viking Age, c. 800 to 1100, an era that saw Scandinavian raiders, traders, and settlers active across much of Europe, and as far south as North Africa's Mediterranean coast, and as far east as Baghdad. Viking Age Scandinavians, in fact, knew more about the world than any previous Europeans, and the fascination with the Norse discoveries is natural, given that they are the sole proven pre-Columbian European contact with the Americas. But do they really merit all the attention? Let's dig a bit deeper. Getting started with the origins. Around AD 1000, half a millennium before Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic, it was Leif Erikson who sailed west from the newly established Norse colony in Greenland and discovered a fair land, abounding with lush meadows, rivers teeming with salmon, and wild grapes so suitable for wine that he named the region Vinland, or Wineland. The Norse route to America, in fact, is sometimes described as the stepping stone route, because it proceeded in stages, from one island group to another, with relatively short open sea crossings between them. The first step on the way came some 200 years, even before Leif's discovery of Vinland, with the conquest and colonization of Scotland's northern islands soon after 800 AD. This was followed by the settlement of the Faroe Islands some 25 years later, and then Iceland in circa 870. The next step was the foundation of the Norse Greenland colony by Eric the Red, Leif's father, in the 980s. As Greenland is geologically a part of the North American continent, this ought to be regarded as the first European settlement in the Americas, though it's rarely recognized as such. Coming to the first European sighting of the North American continental mainland. It was literally a feat achieved by an Icelandic merchant called Bjarni Herjolfsson, who lost his way while following Eric the Red and got a glimpse of the North American continental landmass. Bjarni's discovery ignited a lot of interest, and when he decided to give up trading, Eric the Red's son, Leif Erikson, bought his ship and set off on a follow-up expedition. Sailing southwest for 2 days, Leif discovered the Vinland, as we told you earlier. Let's now get to their first encounter with the indigenous Americans. Leif, in fact, made no contact with native peoples. That fatal first encounter took place during his brother Thorvald's follow-up expedition. Thorvald altogether landed in the New World sometime around 985 CE. The 50-member party eventually set up a fortified camp on the large island, yet almost as soon as they hauled their longboats onto the beaches, fighting broke out with the local inhabitants. The Vikings were actually exploring a headland at the mouth of a fjord, where they'd spotted 3 humps on a sandy beach. On further investigation, the humps turned out to be canoes, with 9 men hiding beneath them. The Norsemen captured them and killed 8 of them, but the 9th escaped and raised an alarm. Later that day, Thorvald and his crew noticed a swarm of canoes sailing down the fjord toward them. Outnumbered, they took refuge in their ship and, armed with iron weapons, resisted the attack. During the conflict, Thorvald was hit in the armpit and died soon after. So you see, Leif had been the first European to set foot on the American continent, and Thorvald was the first to be buried there. However, Thorvald's death at the hands of Native Americans was not enough to deter at least 2 attempts by the Norse to settle in Vinland. The first, about 2 years after Thorvald's death, was led by Thorfinn Karlsefni, an Icelandic merchant who took with him his wife, Gudrid Thorbjarnadóttir, 65 men, 5 women, and a variety of livestock. Thorfinn and his band found their promised riches, game, fish, timber, and pasture. However, the party spent an uneventful winter at Leifsboðir, when Gudrid gave birth to a son, Snorri, the first European to be born in America. In the spring, the party had an encounter with Native Americans, whom they denigrated as Skraelings, or wretched people. Little wonder then that the relations with the natives steadily deteriorated. About 3 years after starving, Thorfinn, along with his family and surviving crew, abandoned the North American settlement, perhaps in a hail of arrows. The second attempt at settlement was made by Leif's half-sister, Freydis Eriksdottir, who played her part in resisting the Skraeling invasion, but her attempt at peace failed when half the party was slaughtered in a devastating internecine feud. Let's now see the archaeological proofs and some other artifacts from these Viking settlements. Unfortunately, there isn't much evidence available to back up the presence of Vikings in the Americas. However, a few surfaced in 1961 with the discovery of a colony of turf longhouses and workshops at L'Anse-à-Meadow at the northern tip of Newfoundland, where the longhouse is the typical Norse dwelling, but Inuit and other Native Americans also built similar houses. What proved beyond doubt that this was a Norse settlement was the large number of metal artifacts discovered at the site, including wrought iron ship rivets and a typically Scandinavian bronze ring pin. This bronze pin with a ring at the end was likely used to attach a cloak around the neck, and it was most definitely Viking. Stone loom weights and a spindle whorl also proved evidence for weaving at the site, and as this was a female activity in Viking Scandinavia, this confirmed the saga accounts of women taking part in the Norse voyages of exploration. Radiocarbon dates from organic matter at the site show that it was occupied briefly, between 980 and 1020, which accords well with the saga traditions. Yeah, the saga of Eirik the Red, the saga of the Greenlanders, together known as the Vinland sagas. Though they differ in some aspects, both of them convey similar short stories regarding Viking settlements in North America. However, the precise location of their landing remains a mystery. And the final piece of the Vikings in America's puzzle is, why didn't they stay? The Viking presence in North America had dwindled to nothing long before Columbus began his island hopping in the Caribbean. But why did the Norse fail where other Europeans succeeded? After all, Vikings were consummate seamen and peerless raiders who populated barely livable Greenland and who eventually made their way into the British Isles and France. Plus, with their iron weapons and tools, they also had a technological edge over the indigenous Americans. Several speculations have been made to explain the Vikings' abandonment of North America. Perhaps there were too few of them to support a settlement, or they may have been forced out by American Indians. While the European conquest was abetted by infectious diseases that passed from the invaders to the natives, who succumbed in great numbers as they lacked acquired immunity, early Icelanders might not have carried similar infections. However, climate change is widely cited as the reason that Vikings couldn't make a go of it in the New World. The scholars suggest that the Western Atlantic suddenly turned too cold, even for the Vikings. On the contrary, the epic sailing expeditions of Leif and Thorfinn took place earlier in the 11th century, during the medieval warming, a period of long, warm summers and little sea ice in the North Atlantic. The colony saw 8 hard winters in a row in the middle of the 14th century, culminating in what may have been the worst century in 1355. In their final winter there, the Norse ate their livestock and dogs before turning to whatever else they could find. The settlers might have survived if they had mimicked the Inuit, who hunted ringed seals during the winters and thrived during this little ice age. With sea ice making the routes from Iceland to Greenland and back impassable for much of the year, the little ice age probably limited further Norse traffic to North America. Iceland also fared badly during this time. Moreover, weather-related food shortages, plague, and smallpox epidemics had decreased Iceland's population to 53,000 by 1703, down from more than 150,000 in 1250. Here, it's worth pondering how the history of the West might have differed if the weather had remained balmy. Norse populations in Iceland and Greenland might have flourished, and the Vikings might have stayed in North America. And if the temperature had been a few degrees warmer, some of North America might be speaking Norse today. Well, there you have it. We hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel without any delay. Make sure you turn on the post notifications, and also let us know in the comments section about your views on the Viking traces in North America. Thanks for watching The Unthinkable Past. Until next time we meet, continue learning and stay healthy. Goodbye.